Welcome back to the Infinite Gold Podcast. You've got your hosts, Brie and Anthony, and then we have the amazing Hugh Zaretsky today. How are you doing, buddy?
Woo woo.
Ooh, I'm awesome. How are you?
Great.
Splendid.
This is perfect. We literally have both sides of the United States today. We've got California and New York.
Woo!
Ah.
Bookends.
And then we get to come together at events. It's awesome.
Heck
In
yeah.
literally less than a week now, or no, a week as of today. So perfect. So we've got Hugh Zaretsky with us today. He's amazing, super, super knowledgeable when it comes to business, comes to real estate, all the good stuff. If you're out there and you have any questions about business, real estate, speaking, he speaks internationally. He's trained over 12,500 investors on investing and speaking. So if you've got any questions about any of that, you're definitely going to want to reach out to him. You're definitely going to want to listen to the rest of this podcast. He's also certified to teach and train real estate brokerages in California, Texas, New York. He could probably get certified in other states. So if you have any questions and you need him or you want him come to you,
You want him.
yeah, you definitely do. Trust me.
He knows what he's doing.
Just a little bit.
I appreciate that. And I love your
Of
kids, by
course.
the way.
Of course. Well, our kids love you.
Your Uncle Hugh.
That's the best part. And obviously we'll talk about our events, but with our events, they're super kid friendly. And so when we come to our events, it's not one of those where only one person gets to go. Everybody gets to show up. Everybody gets to learn. The kids are learning in their own room. The best part about it is at our last event, you missed it, but they did a great presentation of Hugh on stage.
So
and it was like on point. I'm just saying, I think I was crying the entire time, just laughing. It was beautiful.
It was. I know they were
Yes.
nervous that I would get upset, but totally nailed it. I was like, yeah, that's perfect.
They did. So Hugh, give us a quick backstory of your life. I mean, it's pretty awesome, all the things that you've done in this short amount of time in kind of all different fields.
Yeah, so, I think I'm like most people. My parents were teachers, and they always told me that lie of study hard and get a good education, right?
Huh?
And I come from 3 generations of teachers, so it's like well ingrained. My grandfather was a teacher. Both my parents are teachers. My sister's a teacher. Me and my brother are the
Oh.
only ones that didn't go into the teaching industry. And so, like most people in life, I think when we're good at something, our parents push us in that direction. So at a young age, I was good at computers and math, and I didn't really have to study. And computers were just coming out way before you two were born. But whatever, right? They were just coming out, and so my dad was like, "Okay," I went into computer programming and just sort of went down that rabbit hole. I always have this funny story. My parents were really into music, and I was really into sports. So from a very young age, I learned how to negotiate because in order to play sports, I had to play a musical instrument. And we can
Oh, wow.
we can
Okay.
dive deeper into that in a little bit. I'll tell you the mindset behind that, but just to give you some
Yeah.
of that. So I always had to like learn music so I could play sports and do what I wanted to do. And eventually I won. I'll tell you that story later. Maybe that's where Laney gets it from too, Uncle Hugh, with that. But from there, I went into IT. It wasn't my passion, but I went into IT and had the opportunity to start working for a company called Getty Images. A lot of your entrepreneurs and people out there
Yeah.
know Getty as they supply most of the photos. So
Mhm.
whether it's paparazzi events, whether it's live events, whether it's news, whether it's, commercial advertising and stuff like that. My job was to get a photo in from anywhere in the world and out to any major newspaper in under 5 minutes. I was director of technology for North America. So anytime there was a
No
crazy
way.
event going on, Angelina Jolie baby photos all the way to the Super Bowl, like I was on call 24/7.
Woo.
And I
Wow.
was tired of commuting. Like you guys know, the 404, there's just a little bit of traffic out there in California on that, right? The 4 or 5 hours or four,
Yeah.
right? Uh, so I was tired of commuting 2 hours. I decided to move into New York City on September 1st, 2001. I've got really good timing in life. So I moved in my apartment
10
10 days.
minutes, or sorry, 10 days before. Whew.
Yeah, 10 days before 9/11, and both planes flew directly past my window into the Twin Towers. I was one of the first people to take pictures of the scene that day. That went out to every major newspaper, and we didn't have handy dandy cell phone cameras back then, right? Our photographers
Wow.
all went running down to the scene. And in the book, I was the first time, the launch button book that I wrote is the first time I actually wrote that whole thing out. Now,
Oof.
my
Wow.
story is not as bad as a lot of first responders and military veterans. So I want to thank you, Anthony. I want to thank all our military veterans, first responders out there because they saw things way worse than I did. But that was my
You're still there.
but that was my wake up call, right?
Mhm.
people ask me about the conspiracy theories. I'm like, all I know is what I saw. Like I saw it all, and we took the photos, and I had to sneak back down past the National Guard even after everybody was evacuated. There's some stupid stuff I did
Yeah.
that day to get back to my job, and I realized this is definitely not worth it. So
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I went to a friend's wedding in North Carolina, found this crazy investment called a condotel that was on the ocean for like $60,000 compared to New York City or LA prices. Like a condo on the ocean for like
oh
60
my
grand.
gosh.
You're like,
I don't,
there's
I don't,
something wrong with this.
I don't think we can get a mobile home for 60
Oh
grand.
my.
Well, and go back 20 years, right? But even 20 years ago, I don't think you could get a
Yeah.
mobile home for that price in
Mm-mm.
LA or right. And
Yeah.
me and my buddy Jeff looked at each other and we're like, there's got to be something wrong with this town. Like, being from New York, we're quite skeptical. Or like, there's definitely something wrong. How can you buy a 1-bedroom railroad style apartment on the ocean that you could then rent out? Like, there's got to be something wrong. And this is
Yeah.
2005,
Fishy.
2006, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we just once we figured out the market, we started investing part time. And I
Nice.
have a rule in my life that says if something 70 to 80% of what you want, say yes to the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ran out of friends and family to raise capital from. And I was like, all right, I need to learn how to raise capital. Because to me, it was a different presentation than I did at my IT job. I'm more than happy to go speak to Wall Street investors and analysts and say, hey, I need $5 million for a data center because
Yeah.
we're going to do X, Y, and Z for this publicly traded company. But give me $1 million, that's a different conversation in my head.
It is.
So this is just to show you the little difference in age here. There was a magazine in New York City that had all these different trainings and events in it. So I picked up this magazine, actual physical copy.
We had magazines when we were younger too. We're
I
not
think I was
that young.
actually subscribed to like 2 different magazines. It was like Teen
I was
Magazine
gonna say you're a
and
girl.
Teen Cosmo
You're a girl.
magazine.
You were definitely subscribed to some magazines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So anyway,
it was.
so I sign up for this course and I go to this course, and at the end of day 2 of this 3-day training, the lady's like, hey, can you stay after? And I was like, okay. And she's like, hey, do you want a job flying around the country teaching and training real estate investors? I was like, you get paid to do that? Like, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, you had
That's
to go
awesome.
I had to buy their coaching program, go through all these things. So again, 70, 80%, I was probably going to say yes to the coaching program anyway. Now, but I also negotiated at that time um, to go ahead and get a guaranteed tryout for their company because it wasn't a paid job. It was a tryout. Like, hey, you come, you speak, we'll train you for 5 weeks. And that's all I wanted was training on how to do it. I was like, you're going to train me for free and fly me around the country?
Sure.
I got plenty of PTO. I can do that. And
That's perfect.
that's how it started. But I do have to say, the guy that actually did this, and most people don't know this, he just passed away June 11th, my coach and mentor that
Oh,
did
wow.
that like a week or so ago from cancer. But he was the one that fought because they tried to back out of that agreement. Otherwise, I would have never been on stage or started to speak and stuff. So
Wow.
I just want to say a big shout out to him and his family for Joe
Yes,
out
thank
there.
you to them.
Yes, thank
That's
you to
awesome.
them, and so sorry for your loss. Holy smokes.
Appreciate
One-
that. But I then took the rocket ship, and then we got on the
Great.
stages and we started training
Yeah.
investors. That led one thing to another. Then I met Greg in the Final Percent at another company that I trained for. I mean, we went through the entrepreneurial roller coaster 2008, 2010 crash, and we survived
Oh, I
that.
bet. Yeah.
Dave Johnson, Super Dave, had this quote just on my podcast the other day. He says, rock bottom can't take you out, right? Rock bottom
Nope.
can't kill you. It can only set you back. And that's what happened to us during the crash. It just set us back. And then it took time to rebuild, and makes me a better investor today because I've actually gone through a crash and survived.
So you know what things are going to lead up to one, and you know how to get through them if you see it or if it happens. So yeah, it's perfect. One of the things I want to highlight right there for the listeners is that 70 to 80% rule. Can you dive more into that? Because obviously we love it and we live by it, but what does that mean, and how should somebody utilize that?
Sure. So many people don't take opportunities because they're like, hey, it's not perfect. It's not exactly what I want. And it could be different things. 1, you're not ready. 2, it's not what you think you wanted. Like, no, I wanted it this way or that. How many relationships break up because somebody's like, oh, they got me the wrong type of flowers versus, hey, they got me flowers.
Yeah.
right? Like,
It's so
oh,
true.
you don't know I like this type of flower versus that one. I hate roses. Oh, like, right? But it's
Oh,
still roses.
jeez.
It's like you guy
Uh-huh.
took the time to get you flowers. So do we
Yes.
appreciate that or do we focus on the like 10% that is wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just sort of a mindset with that. And I've watched so many people pass on those opportunities because it wasn't perfect timing. And
Yeah.
the three of us here know it's never perfect time. Like when you
No.
Right.
decided to have kids, it was never like, hey, this is the perfect time in our life. Like you
Mm-mm.
may have wanted
Oh,
them, you may have been doing that, you may have thought,
yeah.
but then it happens, you're like, oh crap. Like we were not ready for this part or something, right? Like,
No, 100%.
Yeah.
We were both like, yeah, we're totally ready where this is going to happen. And then it happens and you're like, what? Wait, we don't sleep anymore? Oh, this, I don't remember this being on the pros and cons list of things,
Yeah.
but okay.
Here we are.
right.
Yeah.
So it's never perfect. It's never those things. But so if it's, 70 to 80% of what you want, say yes, because
Mm.
you're probably not ready for exactly what you want. Right? You're
Mhm.
like, hey, I want to go.
Mhm.
If you want to be a speaker for all I know, you guys are coaches and with us and all those things. So if you want to go stand on that biggest stage, like the Aspire tour, and you're like, hey, I can just walk right out there and crush it. Right? That tour that comes around the country with Dan Fleischman that does $100 million mastermind.
Mhm.
Like, you're not ready for that stage. You've
Yeah.
got to go
Uh-huh.
perfect all of these different things beforehand.
Mhm.
If he said yes right now, you'd fall on your face and you'd never be able to do it again. Right? You'd
Mhm.
lose your
Mhm.
opportunity. But if somebody says, "Hey, can you come talk here? Hey, can you come do this?" You start to say
Mhm.
yes to those opportunities, and it leads to a path, right? And
Yes.
so, even in
Yeah.
the story I just told you, most people float down the river like a log on a river. You're just sort of floating, and then somebody's
Mm.
like a little wave comes, pushes you to this shore, that shore. You're like, "Hey,
Mhm.
this is easy," until like, bam, a trauma happens.
Yeah.
And then all
Mm.
of a sudden you wake up, you're like, "Oh crap, I'm not happy." And that's what happened to me at
Mhm.
9/11. Like I was making more money than my parents combined at the age of 30. I had stock options in $1 billion company,
Mhm.
and I thought I was happy, but I wasn't.
No,
Right.
it's
And
crazy.
so just having that wake up call. But so saying yes to that opportunity then leads you to the next one, and eventually you get what you want.
Yes.
If I
Mhm.
didn't say yes to that training, and I had to pay for that training, right? It wasn't
Mhm.
free. I had to pay for it. I had to do those things. But at that time, I wasn't worried about money and I had plenty of time off.
Mhm.
So it was like just one of those things. So it worked out. And then, yes, I had to give up my weekend. So you know, at one point I was flying around the country 3 weekends a month, but I was off during the week, right? So it was just a little
Mhm.
bit of a different schedule. But you're saying, yes, those opportunities then lead to the next step, to the next step, to that. And I could
Yeah.
trace, even if everybody goes back in their life, they can see what they said yes to that led to where
Mm.
you are today,
Ooh,
right? If
that's
Yeah.
you guys
so
didn't
good.
say yes to showing up at wherever you originally met Greg, right?
OBS,
Okay, Operation
Operation
Black
Black
Site,
Site.
for the people
Mhm.
who don't know.
Uh-huh.
Operation
Yeah.
Black
Yeah.
Site, right? Let me translate Anthony for you on your own podcast. Joking, right?
Yeah.
Right, Operation Black Site. Then
Mhm.
you showed up at a TFP event, and then we all met,
Yep.
right? Like if you didn't say
Exactly.
Yeah.
yes to that, and you had no idea what you were really coming to when you said
No.
yes at that first thing, right? You
Well,
never
I'll
thought
be
we'd be
honest,
here.
even for all the listeners, is
Yeah.
for my background, I really didn't was like, I don't need to be here. Like it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm gonna learn some things that I pretty much already know. So to be honest, the only reason I went was for her. I wanted her to be ingrained in it and for her to see it. And look what happened. Like if we didn't take that, that yes, that 70 to 80%, if we didn't say that yes to that one, none of this would be happening. We probably wouldn't even be on here. We definitely wouldn't be talking to you.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I almost said like a complete flat out no because it was like the weekend before we were leaving for our late honeymoon
Mm-hmm.
and Lainey was still only like 4 months old
Yeah.
maybe. And I was like, I don't want to leave her for the weekend. We're going to be gone for 11 days next week once we
Mm-hmm.
leave for, Italy. And then he's like, babe, it's gonna be fine. She's fine. She's in good hands. And then I was like, all right, fine. Because I really did want to go, but I was so like,
It
that
wasn't.
early
It
mom
wasn't
stage where I was
perfect.
like, I wasn't
Right.
ready. I was. It
Yeah.
felt like I wasn't ready to go. And then I'm like, okay, well, I do really want to go to this, so let's fucking go.
Yeah, I wasn't ready. It wasn't perfect. And I've had some of my
Yeah.
best training moments holding Lainey in my hands, bouncing her up and down on my knee with some of the best training moments I've
Yep.
ever had. And I would have never had those experiences or getting her to
Mm-hmm.
sleep on
Yeah.
my shoulder at events. Like,
Oh yeah,
like,
we got pictures of it. It's awesome.
She loves Uncle Hugh, and so does Jackson. He's a Uncle Hugh.
So let's segue a little bit into kind of the main thing that you do. Obviously, you speak, you teach, you do all that stuff, but investing, right now, with, again, politics aside, how does someone like yourself, or how does other people who want to get into investing get into it when there's so much outside noise? Like, what do you do with all of that outside noise?
All right. So I'm a little different. Just
Yes.
like like people get so wrapped up in politics in today's world.
Yeah.
And my philosophy is, if same thing, like if I can't have a direct impact on it, then I'm not able to go ahead and worry about it, right? Because I can only
Yeah.
control what's in my world and what I'm able to do.
Yep.
If I've got no control over it, like, you know, whether you like the president or you don't like the president, doesn't really matter to me. I've got family members on both sides. I'm
Yep.
pretty much down the middle.
Same with us.
Yeah, like pretty much down the middle. I think both sides are a little crazy, but whatever. Like,
Yeah.
when we do this, the thing here goes is that doesn't really have an impact on you or your business. What it does is it gets you on the entrepreneurial roller coaster. It gets your
Yes.
emotions high and low. And so we have enough of that already in investing or real estate deals. Like, you're like, hey, I'm making $1 million. Oh, no, deal fell through. Like, I can tell you a story, like about $100 million hotel deal here that we lost because one person lied about one little thing. Right? Like
Oh,
what's
God.
1% of $100 million?
No.
Right? A lot.
A lot. Right? $1
That's
million,
a good deal.
right? That's
That's
$1
a good
million
deal.
right there. We had the whole deal lined up for the Carlton Hotel in New York City. We had a Asian hedge fund buying it. They were all set, and then somebody didn't have the connection that they said they had when we already had proof of funds and everything, right?
Oh.
So that roller coaster can take people out. So to worry about politics, to worry about what's going on out there, out of our control, you just sometimes got to put the blinders on and like, because I do a training called Finding Real Estate Deals in 6 minutes.
Ooh,
And
all right.
one of the craziest things that everybody says is, I can't find a deal. I can't find a deal. I can't find a deal. There's
Yeah.
no good deals, Anthony. There's no good deals. What are you talking about, Anthony? There's no good deals.
There's nothing out there.
There's nothing out there. And
Yeah.
I will take 100, 300, 10 people, whatever size audience we have there. And in 6 minutes, every one of them will find a deal if they take the action.
Ooh,
And I
right
time
there.
it. I time it. It's been videotaped with in all the different organizations that I do it for. Like, people just go through and they find a real estate deal in 6 minutes. Why? Because I stop this. I stop, and for those of you guys on the podcast, I'm pointing at my brain. I stop this brain from thinking and causing you to postpone things and actually just do it.
Yeah.
Greg calls me one of the top action coaches in the country. I'll take that.
Oh, yes.
I just get you out of
He
your
is.
head, into your body, into action. And in 6 minutes, you will find a real estate deal. Now, I can't say it's a great deal. I can't say like you're going to make $100,000 on it, but you will take that first step and get you past your fears. And just like, a lot of people are on their health fitness kick right now. You got 8-minute abs. Well, we got 6-minute real estate deals. Finding real estate deals in 6 minutes. If you did it every day, you'd have like 30 deals. And that's really where you start to then, have that ability to scale and find a really good deal. So let's put the politics aside and just focus on what we can control.
The biggest thing he said right there is do the work. Actually doing the work towards whatever it is that you want to do is going to reap the rewards. If you're trying to think of all these outside noise, think of, I can't do this because of this or this because of this. If you actually just sat down or stood up, whatever you need to do, and did the work, it's going to happen.
Which focus on what you can control.
Exactly. And the best part about that is that leads into a statement that you say all the time that also we love is CDAs, consistent daily actions. Can you explain to the listeners what that means and why that's so important?
Yeah, so consistent daily action leads to success. It's not magic. Like, we actually have T-shirts that are made up that says it's we got to make the shirts again. It's gonna happen. Consistent daily action leads to success. It's not magic, right? Because it really isn't. Everybody's like, oh, how do you do that? Like, if it's fitness, if it's your vitality, if it's, your business, if it's your relationships, if it's anything like that, if you're taking action towards it each and every day, you're getting that incremental 1% better in that, eventually it kicks in, but you don't see it right away. It's like
Nope.
when you go to the gym and you start working out, you're like, oh, I feel like I'm putting on muscle, or I feel like I'm
Yeah.
losing weight, but
You're
I
checking
don't
your
see it. I don't
biceps.
see it. I don't see it until somebody else points at you and goes,
There it
hey.
is. There it
And you're
Uh-huh.
like,
is.
oh, wait, because our mind's eye doesn't change as fast as our body
Mm-hmm.
does and different things like that. Right.
Yeah.
So it's those small, consistent daily actions. But also, what people, and one of the biggest, hardest things I have to do with people is people are too outcome focused. I'm going to say it again,
Mm.
people are too outcome focused.
Yes.
Did I make the sale? Did I close the deal? Did I get paid the money? Well, that's one thing we can't control, because you can do everything right and make a sale.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You can do everything wrong and make a sale. You can
That's
do
true.
everything right and lose a sale.
Like the last one you just talked about.
Yeah. Right. So
Mhm.
like certain things are not in your control. So, when I worked with a lot of salespeople or real estate agents, investors, whatever it happens to be, they're like, I want to talk to 10 people. I want to have 10 good conversations a day. I'm like, okay, but what's a good conversation? Can you define that for
Ooh.
me?
Ah.
Right? I can't control if it's a good conversation or a bad conversation. I can't even control if I call Brie from a number she doesn't know and she's going to answer the phone. She's probably going to be like, beep, send it to
Don't
voicemail, right?
don't know
Like,
that person.
I don't know that person, goes to
Spam.
voicemail. She's like, right, who's this crazy guy Hugh calling me? Whatever, right? Over there, right? Like, so I can't control that. What I can,
Mhm.
so I have to have people shift their mindsets, and be like, hey, I can make 10 phone calls a day. Okay, that I can control. I can't
Mhm.
control if they answer it, but I can
Nope.
control. I leave a message. I will either leave a message or talk to somebody. That's it.
Mhm.
Right. And so if that's your CDA, then you can hit it, because we want to create goals and outcome and consistent daily actions that actually build our confidence,
Yeah.
not knock us down, because, your
Correct.
6 inches do enough of that in the morning anyway.
It's
Right.
true.
It's always beating you up for the things you didn't do. So let's
Mhm.
habit stack positives, and then you have more confidence through your day. So it's breaking it down into those little things that get you the outcome. Because if you make enough phone calls, you eventually do a sale.
Yeah.
Right? Even if
For
you're the
sure.
worst salesperson in the world, you make 1,000 phone calls. Eventually, you're going to stumble on. You're going to get lucky, and somebody's going to say yes.
Correct. Yes.
But
And with those 1,000 calls, you're getting better. So you could be the worst salesman. You're incrementally getting better every single time because you're putting in the reps. You're putting in the work.
yeah, and if you set the goal as, hey, I made 10 calls versus, hey, I made a sale, 1,000 phone calls you don't get
Mm.
to if your goal is, I got to make a sale, because you
Correct.
quit and give up before that, because it's
Mhm.
negative. Right?
Yep.
Crap, I
Yeah.
didn't do it. Crap, I didn't do it. Crap, I didn't do it.
Mhm.
Hey, I hit my 10 sales. Hey, I hit my 10 calls. Here, I hit my 10
Excited.
calls. Here, I hit my 10
Mhm.
calls. Woohoo!
Mhm.
Yeah.
Those are the wins. Those little wins.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you guys do that with your kids. You just don't
Oh
do it
yeah.
as adults.
It's true. We
Yeah.
got to come back to our kids' days.
Yeah.
So
Make it
you've
fun.
got this thing. It says launch button behind you. What is that?
Yeah. So one of the things, I was really good in math, as I said, but I could not spell
Yep.
or do grammar. Right. And so, like, even when I text people and they're like, "Oh, you spelled this wrong," I was like, "Obviously, you figured it out." Right. I wouldn't even like correct myself. I would just be like, "Obviously, you figured out the right word." Like, there
I
you go.
actually I love those photos where the entire sentence is misspelled and it's backwards, but we can all read it because that's how our brains operate.
Yeah.
So you're fine. You can misspell all the time.
Right?
So I had limited beliefs, and we talked about that. My limited belief was I can't spell or do grammar, and
Mhm.
I just adapted that. I was like, I don't have to really worry about that. I'm gonna be really good in math and just go in that direction in IT and everything like that.
Yeah.
But back in 2005, somebody told me I needed to write a book, and I was like,
Huh.
okay. And that was in my mind. I was like, ooh, that's really hard. So I'm gonna go hire a ghostwriter. Right?
Yeah.
I can't spell or do grammar, right? I have to change my wording because that's how I coach it. I couldn't spell or do grammar at that
Yeah.
time, right?
Mhm.
Like, and so it was like, okay, go do that. And then just before COVID, I started, I ran into like 3 different people. So, sorry, we hired the ghostwriter. Let me finish that story.
Mhm.
Hired the ghostwriter, and it wasn't coming out right. It wasn't my language. It wasn't the way I wanted it. Like the
Mhm.
stories were all off, even though I provided them. So I was like, all right, forget it. And the housing market crashed. I was like, put the book on the shelf. Like, let's not come back to it.
Mhm.
Then in 2018 or so, I was traveling, and a friend of mine wrote a book, and he was like, hey, Hugh, you know way more about real estate investing, but my book's an Amazon bestseller. And he's like, you definitely got to write one. And I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
okay, whatever. And then I was sitting in a bar in New York City having dinner and end up next to somebody that like is an editor. She's like, wow, your story is amazing. Like, you got to go write a book. And
Mhm.
then I hired a coach
Nice.
to do something else. And I go out there, tell him, and he's like, okay, Hugh, your story's amazing. You got to go write a book. And he's a New York Times bestselling author multiple times, all of these things. I was
Yeah.
like, all
Nice.
right, the universe is telling me I have to go write a book, right? Like,
Mhm.
He's
it's
heard
like,
it
I
more
just
than
got to
3
say yes.
times.
Yeah, three times in like, 3 times in like a month, right? Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
and once I gave myself permission to write, I ended up writing 2 books. Enough for 2 books that I had to, like, trim it down. So,
Nice. That's
um,
awesome.
it's a process of walking through people. The Launch Button book, you can find it on Amazon. It's now on Audible too. Woohoo! We finally got that done,
Yes.
Yes.
um, on there. And so it's a process of helping people find their passion if they don't know what it is. Because oftentimes we have business, and my philosophy is we have business and real estate, and they go together to
Mhm.
help us fuel our passion, or one becomes our passion. But typically when real estate crashes, business does well. And typically when business crashes, real estate does well. So we have the
Yeah.
multiple streams of income. And if we
That's
do
Mhm.
awesome.
that, too many people go, hey, I want to help people, and then they don't help themselves, right? Like, I
Oof.
just want to
Yeah.
volunteer and do all that. Well, we can structure that based on that, and you can build a lifestyle with Airbnb, different strategies like that. So you can travel the world. Like, you'll see the pictures of like, dolphins and turtles behind me,
That
all the
was my
things that I
next
like to
question.
do in Hawaii. For that, you can build that life for you
Mhm.
if we have that set up. But also, oftentimes, people don't even know what they're passionate about. Like, I didn't know what I was passionate about.
Mm. So good.
So we had to find it. So that's what the Launch Button book does. It helps you find your passion or take it to the next level. Uh, Whether you're at a corporate job and you're afraid to leave because we get handcuffed by our salaries, or like the police, right? You get handcuffed like, oh, I can't leave because I'm making this revenue now, right? Like your
Yep.
friend Nick
Mhm.
there, right? So like we
Yep.
talked about all these different things, but let's find the passion. Let's build the side hustle, and then you take
Mhm.
it full time. And so that walks you through the process.
I love that. You kind of tailored into it with my next question was gonna be was the photos. I overheard you talking about it, and a lot of people don't know. So I'm curious if we can discuss what your passion is.
Sure. One of my
Yeah.
passions, I got a couple, but one of them is underwater photography. Now, being in New York
Yes.
City, we do not have really clean water. I am
That's
not
weird.
swimming in the
Believe it or
Hudson.
not.
I am not getting
No.
finding some cement shoes and swimming in the Hudson, you know?
Cement shoes.
You also are gonna come up with probably a couple of different diseases or other things too. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Somebody does actually, I think I just posted on Instagram yesterday or a couple of days ago. Somebody was fishing in the Hudson and caught like a big striper. I was like, I am definitely not eating that, and I want to know what restaurant you work at because I'm not going there, right? Like,
Bleh.
Yeah. No. That is funny, but yes.
Not
yeah. So,
considered wild caught.
yeah. So, going back to the 70-80% of what we want, when I
Mhm.
worked at Getty Images, my boss who hired me got transferred to Australia, and he was bored. And
Okay.
he was like, "Hey, why don't you come visit me?" And I was like, "Well, like," I was like, "Okay."
That's a
He's
weird question, but all right.
Yeah, like we were friends before that from a previous job. He's like, "Hey, I'm
Yeah.
out here, like, don't really know anybody. Want to come to Australia? It's winter in New York. Like, come out, like, take some vacation. You could stay with me
Mhm.
in Sydney." So I was like, "Well, if I'm gonna go all the way to Australia, I'm gonna learn how to. I want to dive. Like, I love
Yeah.
the ocean and stuff like that. Well, then I'm gonna get certified to dive, and I'll come out there and I'll spend some time with you, and then another buddy of mine's a dive master. Like, then we'll go dive the
Nice.
Great Barrier Reef."
Yeah.
Nice.
And so we're like, okay. And so that very first trip got me hooked. But here's a funny story with that. I'm slightly
Yeah.
competitive, and actually a lot competitive when it
I
comes
was
to
gonna say,
certain things.
wait, slightly. I'm gonna go on a limb here.
Downplaying that one
Yeah.
much?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm highly competitive when it comes to certain things, and especially when I was much younger. So I actually ran out of oxygen 40 feet below the water on the Great Barrier Reef on my very first dive after being certified, because I did not,
What?
and your faces are amazing if we put this on YouTube. Yeah. And
Enough entertainment.
so because I wouldn't tap out to be the first one that said I was halfway out. And it's a whole funny story. Like,
Yeah.
because I dove in New York City, we had 5 millimeter wetsuits, full body. And we went to Australia. Now it's summertime. Everybody's wearing like the 3 mil shorties,
Mm.
right? And
Mhm.
me and this is the whole thing when we talk about in business, when you don't know what you don't know, and you got to need a coach or mentor. So I've got a
Yep.
dive master that just certified me. And before we get in the ocean for my first official after certification dive, and my buddy's a dive master, by the way. So
Yeah.
two like dive masters. And the only question they asked me was, "Are you sure you want to wear that wetsuit?" Now, I flew 5,000 miles with this wetsuit and
Yeah.
my gear and all of this. And I'm like, yeah. They were like, okay. Instead of educating me and being like, hey, by the way, you're going to sweat your arse off. And I'll say arse, so we didn't put it on there. You're going to sweat your arse off underwater. You're going to off gas more. Maybe you should borrow one of our shorties. And I would have been like, okay, because I didn't know any better.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh.
The only thing I knew was I just flew 5,000 miles with a wetsuit.
I'm going
it
in
in
this
my
water.
mind.
Yeah, you were
Like, I'm using it
determined.
unless you give me a good reason. Now, I wasn't
Yeah.
wise enough to say, is there a reason I shouldn't, right? At that time, I
Yep.
was younger. I was just like, I flew, like, in my head. That's all what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, luckily, for those of you guys that don't want to scare people about diving, the dive master does have an extra tank and an extra gauge so that for competitive people like me or stupid people like me at that time, they go ahead and give you the extra gauge and they're like, here you go. So by the time the first person went halfway, I was at the quarter
0.
mark. I was at the quarter mark. And they're like, and you have to go
Oh,
up and do a stop, right? And then you have to
Yeah.
go up. So you can't just go straight to the surface. Otherwise you get the bend. So we
no.
have to go up,
You have to
wait for
gradually
5
do it.
minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then head off. So the dive master just looked at me, shook his head. And I was like, how about you wear the shorties or a stop? I was like, how about you explain that to me? And I would have said yes the first time.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Oh, that's perfect.
That's wild. Yeah, because you can't just shoot right up to the top. Because I got
Nope.
certified X amount of years ago. Oh my gosh, over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus. But yeah, I remember because you can't. I went diving for the first time in Fiji, and then they're like, "Yeah, no, you can't go straight up when you're like 60 something feet down or whatever." You're like, "Don't panic. Come up slowly. Do this. Do this." I'm like, "All
Yeah,
right,
you gotta
cool.
do your
Not
stop.
panicking."
You gotta do your stop. You gotta wait.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
But so a lot of these photos are from Maui, and I even just love snorkeling and free diving
Beautiful.
because you can just drive around Maui like for like I think it's like $30. You can rent snorkel gear for the week, and you just
That's
go out there.
awesome.
And to your point, free. I got certified like over 20 years ago, so I had to take a refresher.
Oh,
And
okay.
during COVID, because I was going with another group, and we were going to dive Grand Cayman for another professional development group. I knew
Mhm.
their leader liked to dive and everything like that. And I was so mad. I paid like, snorkel $30. I paid $300 to get recertified in Maui. And they took me to the same spot that I snorkel. I was like, this sucks. Like, I can tell you where the
Ah,
eel is. I can tell
man.
you where this lives. I was like, I thought I'm getting recertified. I'm like, we're going out on a boat. We're going
Yep.
somewhere fun. They're like, no,
Mhm.
right off the beach, right where we go normally. I was like, oh.
Like, wasted this
Shoot.
money, but okay.
But I'm
Uh-huh.
recertified again. Right there you
But
go.
you're
Yeah.
recertified again.
Nice.
That's awesome. So prior to this call, we were talking about you traveling like all the time and being at home just a slight amount of the time. Where are you traveling these days, and where is this all leading you to?
Yeah. So it goes back to that 70-80% say yes, right?
Yeah.
So, we're doing a lot of the three of us are actually doing a lot of events together, and I get to see you
Yep.
guys and I get to see all right,
Yay.
Jackson and
It's
Laney
awesome.
often. It's amazing with that. So we're gonna be in Wyoming
Hmm.
doing the Jammer event and then
Yep.
the TFP retreat up
Mhm.
there. So getting off grid for about 7 days over there.
It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we're coming to LA with you guys on the 7th, 16th, 17th to the
Yep.
20th, whatever that happens to
Mhm.
be. And then from there, I go right to see family in Northern California. So we spend an extra time out there.
Nice.
And then we've got events coming up in Miami. We got events in New York. We got
Mhm.
events in Seattle. We're going to Africa for 10 days. So I have a big passion about
Yeah.
animals, not so much hiking mountains, but so we're going to go on safari. And, it only
I
cost it. And
don't mean
Marie's,
to interrupt you, but I do want you to talk about that because I think it's a great cause as to what you're doing
Yes.
for that. So
For the Clean
please,
Water Project,
yes,
right?
please
yeah,
tell
yeah.
everybody about it.
Yeah, so we're doing a clean water project. I got a chance to go to South Africa in the end of 2023 into 2024. I had met Nelson Mandela's great-great-grandson at another event. He invited me to his town to check it out. And
Yeah.
I was already one of my passions for planning a trip there with another group. So from there, that sort of sped off. We got to see some of the amazing safari and stuff like that. But what I
Mhm.
didn't expect was when we went into the townships, and in essence, that's
Mhm.
their ghettos and that's their
Mhm.
neighborhoods and everything like that. And it was just a chance uh, to get to meet some of the kids. Now, we did
Yeah.
a lot of things that Anthony would probably not approve of as a police officer, safety checks and things like that. And definitely Chris Weichman would not at all. Like, we would be shot by Chris, like, what are you doing? Like, I went back
Yeah.
into the town by myself, like, twice. I did have a one guy walking with me, right? But it's obviously, I was very much the minority walking through there
Mhm.
when we were going back to buy soccer balls for the kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm a big soccer player, played my whole life. And just the universal sport. So while we were
Mhm.
there, all these kids, we were working on a garden, and all these kids started showing up by the vanfuls, by the taxifuls, because they don't have enough food at home. And we were at the school, at the garden, helping them. And then because it was Christmas, New Year's, it's actually their
Mhm.
summertime, right? Because it's opposite
Okay.
of the US. And so they were all out and they may not have eaten that day. And they just started showing up by the vanfuls. And
Wow.
so we went back into town just to buy some bread and peanut butter and stuff like that. And I got
Mhm.
soccer balls and I was like, here, this is a universal sport. So we got a big game of soccer. It's a whole great thing. And I
Yeah.
realized
That's so
like
cool.
so many things that we take for granted in our first world
Mhm.
country that other people don't.
Yeah.
And it was just a great reminder. My parents have taught me that my entire life, working with inner city youth and
Mhm.
all sorts of things that they did. But sometimes we get, we just need that wake up call.
Yeah.
So we're going to Tanzania, and it's only like, I think $40 gives a person water. Like, that's
That's
the little
crazy.
amount that it takes to go ahead and do
Mhm.
that. So we're raising about $25,000 to put a water containment system in. So we're doing like a 4-in-1 event. So and for all your listeners out there that want to go, it is 100% tax deductible. This is how we design things as entrepreneurial.
That's
So you get to
awesome.
write
So
the
cool.
whole trip
Yes.
off on your taxes, number one. So you get that tax rebate. So we are gonna go we're doing, Thrive in the Wild and On Stage is
That's
the
really
I
event,
cool.
love it.
That is
right?
so
That's gonna
cool.
be so exciting. I can't wait for all of your photos.
The
Yeah,
links will be in the bio, by the way, if you're interested in going and or donating. I highly recommend at least donate. It's a great cause.
yeah. So we're gonna do speaker training, like telling your story, getting it more effective
Mhm.
from stage, all of that fun stuff. We're gonna do some survival training with Chris and Carly in the wild.
Yes.
Then we're going on
Ooh.
safari, and we're gonna stop by the
So
water
cool.
system. Now,
Mhm.
I because I'm a little different. Made
A little.
sure that we are not just doing a safari in a vehicle, but we're actually going to do a walk-in safari. For those people that qualify,
Yes.
you're going to get to walk with the
Yes.
animals, and we're going to have the Maasai warriors there. Now,
Woo!
some of you guys are freaking out on the other side. That's okay. You can stay in the vehicle. It's not
Yes.
No.
mandatory you stay in the vehicle, but
Yeah.
I wanted to do a walk-in safari because
That is
last
so
time we
cool.
stayed in the vehicles.
Yeah.
Nice. Getting that extra adventure in.
Well,
That's so cool.
excitement. I mean, where else can you literally donate to a great cause and experience all that stuff
Mhm.
at the exact same time?
Yeah, and the great thing is we're gonna document the whole water project, so you'll actually get all the videos, you'll get pictures, you'll
Yes.
get all of the whole thing with that because Chris and Carly are gonna go back to the area multiple times, plus the organization. That was actually the hardest thing, to be honest with you guys. We wanted to start advertising this trip like 6 months ago, 8 months ago
Mhm.
when we came up with the idea. We couldn't find a charity that was based in
It's
Tanzania that we could donate the money to or
that's
donate the money to a
crazy.
charity to get it there. Like, because there's
Yeah.
so many things with international,
Yes.
Yeah.
transfers of money, and everybody's like, "Well, why
Mhm.
don't you just take it?" I was like, "I don't wanna be responsible for that," and, like, then somebody
Not
says,
that
like, their
much.
money didn't get there, right? Like,
Mhm.
so and all the tax implications and all these different things, so we finally found a great charity. They're actually based here in New York, which is hilarious to me, like, after that, like, searching around the globe, like, we had, like, David Meltzer's group, like, all these famous people that do water projects in different
And it's just
places,
back home.
and I was like, "Right here in our
You're
backyard."
like, "Wow." It
That's
was right
funny.
under my nose.
Yeah.
It just came around full circle. That's all it is. That's awesome. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be awesome.
So how can we help you and your listeners? What's the number one need you have for you and your listeners?
Yeah. So for the majority of our listeners, they're all looking for tangible ways to either create that hobby or do something different and or break free from whatever it is that they're doing right now and do that and go for that passion. That's why I really loved how you talked about, that 70 to 80% rule. It's like if you have that desire, if you have that passion to do something else, or maybe even think about doing something else, and you're in that 70 to 80%, then you need to take that step. You need to go for that and push for it. And then we have multiple events coming up that highly recommend you be part of. Can you explain a little bit as to what the Final Percent events and how they're different from others and why someone should go to them?
Sure. But I'm going to give you guys a bonus first for your
Yeah,
listeners. How's that?
I like it. We
Yes.
always like bonuses.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
If you reach out to Brie and Anthony, all the listeners on here, and you send them a message that says 3x3x3. Okay.
Ooh,
3x3x3. When we talked about the CDAs and the consistent daily habits, we're going to show you how to connect with people and go deeper. So I do another training. It's called 1 + 1 = 1,000. It's new math.
That one I
And-
know.
Okay,
It's
I've heard
great.
of it.
It is great.
Right. And so if we do this 3x3x3, what we'll do is we'll set up a special event over Zoom, or if we do it live while we're in LA, whichever one works out better, depending on when you guys do this. But you've got to send them a text or comment below this video, wherever it happens to be, or on the
Yes.
podcast. You reach out to them 3x3x3. We're going to show you the secret of connecting and going deeper with people.
Oof,
Anthony, you saw this.
that is so good.
We got a chance to see this firsthand when we were in Utah. We flew in. There was a whole bunch of us going to a guys event, and I
Yep.
just had done that strategy. And a guy showed up, met us for lunch. Like, we're literally coming off the planes. We're all like,
Yep.
and one of my old connections showed up, and he's like, "Hey, I got this $1 million business that, we need to go ahead and do this, but I'm doing this." So I ended up doing like a coaching live session right there. And now he's driving it forward, and like now he's on fire with it. Right. Just
That's
because we
so
did
cool.
this. And all I did
Awesome.
was reconnect. And that's the 3x3x3. I'm going to show you how you can reconnect, go deeper, go faster with people just by doing that. So send them that message. 3x3x3.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And
Awesome.
you got to do it. I'm telling you, Hugh knows what he's talking about. So if you're interested in this,
Yeah.
definitely do it.
No, if they want to go deeper with you, not
Correct.
if they're just interested, if they want to find their passion, they
Yeah.
want to launch what they're doing, they want to take it to the next level, then you've just got to send a message. It's simple. Just do it.
It is.
Right? There it
Take
is.
the leap.
All right.
Take the leap of faith.
Thank you
Take
for
the leap
that,
of
Hugh. We
faith.
really appreciate it.
All right. No problem. All right. So with the final percent, it isn't about the 1%. It's about going that distance. And it's about sometimes you need somebody to give you extra energy. Sometimes you need somebody to give you extra support. Sometimes you need that ability just to talk to people. And that could be women talking with women, men talking with men, families talking with families, whatever it happens to be. One of the great things I love, and I've spoken for many, many different organizations. And when I met Greg a couple of years ago, and we decided to smash our worlds together, a really big thing of that was the fact that what was different, right? Because I've
Yeah.
seen the good and the bad of the personal development space.
Mhm.
There's been some crazy things that happen behind the scenes, and like some
Oh,
people
I
say
bet.
one thing on
Mhm.
stage and then another thing off stage, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that those two things don't
Right.
correlate.
Don't-
Like, it would have
yeah.
benefited me, but I'm like, that doesn't jive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took Greg and I about a year of like sort of circling each other's worlds of being like, are you real? Is he real? Like all of those different things to figure it out.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I love is it is a family oriented event, like you said earlier, right? Because oftentimes one spouse or one significant other goes to the event, the other one has to stay home.
Mhm.
And then when the other one comes home, they're on fire. They're like, whoa, I learned all these things from Tony Robbins, from Greg Kimball, from all these different people, right? And they come home and the other spouse is like, here, take the kids. I don't care. Like, I need a break. Here you go.
Mhm.
But when they come together, they have the opportunity to learn together and to grow together.
Yeah.
And that's what it's really about. We've got billionaires to people just starting. Like, it doesn't matter where you are, but we can have the conversation at your level, and everybody takes
Yeah.
something different from it. And with the infinity model, we focus on the professional growth, the personal growth, the vitality, and your community. And oftentimes we are really good in one area of your life, but not so good in others.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
And we tend to hide out. And so
Yes.
oftentimes we need to sort of slide backwards. Like, if you're like, so everybody's like, well, I got to make more money, then I can become healthy. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way.
No.
It doesn't work that way. Like, there's an old saying in the US especially, most people spend the first 40 years of their life making their wealth, and then they spend the next 40 years of their life using their wealth to pay for their health.
It's
Yeah.
so
Right?
true.
It's
Unfortunately,
sad
it
but
is sad,
true.
right? Versus doing it all at the same time. So,
Yes.
Right?
we need to be able to focus on that. We need to give you the support in the different areas, but oftentimes it's not where you think. Like, if you want to make more money in your business, you need a better mindset, or something's going on in your personal life that's going to prevent it. So we train in those 4 different areas. So we're going to work with you on your vitality, making sure you've got a sound mind, body, strength, sleep, all of those different things. Mental health all goes into that. And then 2, you get into the professional growth, whatever that to be. It could be entrepreneurs, it could be traditional business, it could be being the CEO of a business, it could be you hitting this glass ceiling at your job or work or police, whatever happens to be, wherever you happen to be with that. And then we get into the personal mindset is really oftentimes where it all comes down to, because it all starts in your brain, whether we think we can do it or we think we can't, right? There's that famous saying, if you think you can, you're right. And if you think you can't, you're right. Because your brain does whatever you think you can or cannot do. And then the community is a superpower, right?
So true. Yep.
So, there's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's how it is. Like, that's how we can spread out. That's how we can get opportunities that we've never had before. Like, that's how I used to do a lot of my real estate deals. I had over 700 people around the United States and internationally that would bring me deals. Now, there's no way I could find some of these off-market deals if I didn't have 700 people like out there looking for stuff that I couldn't do.
And then just imagine how much time you save too.
Yeah.
Like, they're coming to you and you're not trying to hunt them down. That's a lot of 6-minute deals, just saying.
Yeah. Right. But the community gives you that superpower. So if you're weak in an area, then you can lean on somebody else that's strong in it. And then, it's not only when you're doing well, it's also when you're down. I have the saying, and I've got from another organization. Sometimes you need the meeting or the event, and sometimes the event or meeting needs you. Right? They need your energy. Like, if you're having a really good day, like somebody else in that meeting is having a bad day. Right? So, sometimes if you're having a bad time, you're like, I don't know if I want to get on the call. Get on the damn call with me. Like, you can get on calls with me 3 times a week. Right?
I know.
So we keep you in action and we keep you moving forward and keep you on track so you don't spin off. And then what I love about those calls is everybody learns from everybody. I'm learning from people on there because people are sharing, this is going on, and somebody's like, oh, that's a cool idea. I can apply it here. And so the final percent brings all of that together, and it's truly, are you going the final percent for you, whatever that happens to be.
So true. Yeah.
Now your final percent, Brie's final percent, Anthony's final percent, and my final percent are all different.
Correct.
And at different stages of our lives. So it's whatever it is for you.
So true. So good. And we have, obviously you mentioned it, we have Wyoming here in a couple weeks, and then, or actually in a week, and then we have the LA in less than a month, and that one's July 19th and 20th. So if you're in the LA area, you're listening to this, you definitely want to be there. Links of all of these will be in the bio.
Don't be afraid to reach out to us and ask questions. Our DMs are open. We are happy to talk with you. And we really want you there.
Yes.
So here's what we're going to say. If it's 70 to 80% of what you want, you heard on this podcast, there's no questions to be asked because you can only talk yourself out of it. Right? You just click the link, you just register. And we're in LA. Now, understand this. Where in LA can you get a 2-day event with personal, professional? You're going to have millionaires and potentially, almost billionaires in that room, and you're only going to pay $333. Like, where in LA are you going to get that?
You're not going to get that anywhere else.
You're
Nowhere
putting yourself
else.
in a room of power proximity.
Yeah, right. You're not going to get that anywhere else in LA. That event should cost you $2,500 to $10,000 just
minimum
to be in that
easily.
room.
Yeah.
You're going to get it for $333.
Yeah.
So don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it. Just click the link, register, and then we get to meet in person. It'll be awesome.
Exactly.
Yes.
Instead of just over here on the audio and or visual, depending on where you're watching or listening to this.
Yep.
So Hugh, we'd like to finish off these with our 3 golden nuggets. So what are your 3 golden nuggets our listeners should know about life, business, anything?
Well, I think we've really covered.
The best part is that we haven't even gotten the same 3 from anybody yet. So we're excited to hear what your 3 are.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I go by my golden rules, right? So my golden rules, we've already really covered 2 of them here. One is if it's 70 to 80% of what you want, say yes to the opportunity, because you never quite know where it leads. Like,
Yes.
saying yes to that training got me here today. If I hadn't said yes to that, I wouldn't be here, right? And just like we tracked all the way through with you guys
Yeah.
on there. 2, it's consistent daily actions lead to success. It's not magic. And we're either moving closer to our goals or further away based on our actions we take each day. There's
Yeah.
no staying the same. So
Nope.
if you're doing your CDAs, you're moving closer. If you're not doing them, you're moving further, right? It just sort of happens that way. And then 3 is give yourself grace and patience, because things don't happen in our time frame.
Nope.
Mhm.
Let me say it
Definitely
again.
not.
Things don't happen in our time frame. And I forget who said this, but it's a great statement. It says, we judge other people based on their word, and we judge ourselves based on our intentions.
That is good.
Right? We judge ourselves based on our intention. Well, I meant to be there, but I was tired today, or I overslept, or whatever. So now I'm not going to do that. But if we held ourselves to the same thing, accountability that we would hold other people to, well, Bree said she was going to be here at 9 to do this. Right. Well, Lainey was up all night, so I gave myself permission over, sleep in, whatever it is, right? Like my intention was to be there, but because of these other things, right? And
Ooh,
so if
that's
we
good.
just give ourselves a little bit more grace and a little bit more patience to not beat ourselves up for the things that we don't do, but actually start to focus on the wins. And that's why on our trainings, we talk about the wins every day.
Yes.
Every time somebody gets on our training, I'm like, you have to tell me a win. People are like, I don't have any wins. I was like, I don't know what word I can say on here, but
It's at this point, I
we'll
think
call it
we're
BS.
already we're already labeled as explicit, I think, because we've had,
Okay,
we've
I'm
had
like, that's bullshit.
We've
I'm
had
like, that's
yeah.
bullshit, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's
just
we-
say it.
bullshit.
Hey,
Say it what it is. Call
we've
it
had
what it
we've
is.
had Chris on, we've had a few other people on, so we're already past that point. I tried.
I'm
I
like,
tried.
that's
It's clean
bullshit,
for the
right?
most part.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, like it's bullshit because
Yeah,
everybody has a win. Your win could
we
be
do.
the fact that you got out of bed today.
Yeah.
The win could
Yep.
be, you're walking, you're breathing, you're here. Some people don't get to wake up the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with what you guys deal with. I know Bree's got military in her family, Anthony, like they've seen crazy things, and it's like, oh well, this happened, right? And it's like, well, that's not really something. It's not going to kill you today, so
No.
let's take that step. So it's all
Yeah.
perspective on that. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some perspective. It's going to take longer than you think. It's going to not work, but you just got to keep going.
That is so good. Again, if you liked anything from this episode, which you should have, if you're actually listening, follow Hugh. Reach out to Hugh. He's a wealth of knowledge. He wants to help people. He's here to serve you. If you have real estate deals, he'll take those too. If you think you can't find a real estate deal, he'll show you that you
teach
can
you how
in 6 minutes. So follow Hugh. Don't forget to follow us. If you have any questions, concerns, as you know, a lot of our Friday episodes are just Brie and I asking questions or answering questions. So if you have any questions you want us to answer, reach out to us. Again, LA Totality, just click the link in the notes and just sign up. You got to be there. They're down there.
If you like the show, share the show.
Yes, thank you very much. And we'll see you guys in the next one.